In today's video, we are taking a look at the 5 most expensive non-reserve list cards this year for 2025. And the number one card will shock you. It would be so easy to just talk about the Power 9 as the most expensive cards in Magic the Gathering for 2025. But that's not what we're here to do today. We're here to talk about the cards that are not reserve list, that are the most expensive cards for you to think about in 2025. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out with me on my channel today. Now, a reminder before we start today's video that if you enjoy today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I do put out new content every single day. Now, of course, you would think the most expensive cards in Magic the Gathering, if you've been around the block for a while, you're going to think of the Power 9. You would think of the Black Lotus, Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, Time Twister, and of course, the Moxen. You may go to the Power 10 and start thinking about Time Vault, or maybe a Library of Alexandria. You might go down the list and just think of Dual Lands as another type of card that is so expensive by today's standards. But of course, those cards are old, and many new Magic players have probably never even seen these cards or only in a display case and don't own them and really don't have the inclination to buy the cards at that point. They're just so expensive for the average player looking at them that it doesn't even enter their minds in most cases. They just think it's a piece of nostalgic history. So we're not going to include those cards. We're not talking about just the Power 9. And we're not going to talk about Post Malone's The One Ring. We're not talking about fancy foiling. We're talking about base versions of cards that are out there. And these cards are very expensive. They kind of blew my mind when I saw how pricey some of these cards still were all the way up and into 2025. And like I said, number one will blow your mind because it came out of the blue when you think about it. Now, when we're taking a look at these cards, and we look at the history of when these sets came around and their uses, cards nowadays, by design, are just more powerful. You can call it power creep. You can call it the productivity of the game moving forward and just the evolution of what's going on. But either way, they are generally more powerful than most cards we ever thought of back in the day. And when you look at some of the cards on this list, the top 5, you can see there that this is just, it'll blow your mind a bit. You'll be like, this is how expensive these cards are. And there are players who own multiple copies of these cards because when they bought them, depending on the year you got them or how you got them, they may have been very cheap. They still may have been moderately expensive. But most of these cards were never dirt cheap. And they're not likely going to be. But this also brings us to another viewpoint when you're looking at this. When you're taking a look at the past, at the reserve list, which Wizards of the Coast has no real, they have no need to touch it, to grab it, to feel it. They just gotta look at it and say, eh. But they like to imitate it. They like to have access to it. They like to have the allure of the reserve list to draw players into the newer cards and the newer way. And eventually, I think they'll probably surpass many of the reserve list cards as a whole somewhere down the line, the next 10, 20 years. They'll probably expand beyond that. But these 5 cards right now, these are something. Now, before we jump to the top 5, before I show you these 5 cards, understand that I didn't include any fractured foils, neon inks, or any crazy stuff. Again, base version cards. And yeah, I probably had at some point missed a card or two. I would love to hear if I've missed something that you can put it in the comment section. We're going by value, by price in this video. And if I've missed something, I'd love someone to educate me and let me know what I've missed up to this point. But when I saw the cards and I saw some of the prices, well, let's stop and pull back for a minute. Let's let you guys take a look at these 5 cards, and then we're going to continue this conversation because we're not done after these top 5 cards go by. We have to talk about where this market is going to take these cards in 2025. So even at the end of the top 5, don't leave because we're not done yet. At number 5, we have Ancient Copper Dragon, Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. This card has an average price tag of $70.15. It is in need of a reprint. And when you look at a card like this and ask yourself, could it come around in 2025? That's what some players may kind of dwell on for a little while, just because the price tag on this and the desirability really hasn't stopped at all. This card is sought after by anybody playing with dragons or anyone trying to make trigger effects go off with the treasure token. So a card like this can really have a lot of value, which means Wizards of the Coast may be checking this one out. Now, number 4 is Sheoldred the Apocalypse. It has actually had some light reprinting already done, but this card continues to show strength, value, and versatility. No, it can't protect itself, but when you drop this bomb on the board, if you've got ways of drawing cards, making your opponents draw cards, or better yet, both, a card like this is just going to burn people out. Its low casting cost, high strength, and death touch, as well as its secondary abilities, means this is a card that any mixed black deck is going to have inside. They are going to use at least one copy, if not multiple copies of this card. And again, it is a card that probably will get a reprint sooner rather than later. But the good news is, I don't think a lot of players don't already know this. I think we're all aware that this card is definitely in desperation for a reprint, and it's just going to be a little matter of time when Wizards thinks they can slot it in. Now, our number 3 card. Here we have Chrome Mox from Mirrodin. This thing is back up to $97 a copy, okay? This is almost at the $100 level, and when you're thinking of non-reserve list cards, when you're thinking about cards that are not on that reserve list, and you start looking at some of the values of these cards, you realize how expensive other formats truly are to play. Now, Chrome Mox, originally from Mirrodin, again, it has had multiple reprints, but its value is recognized. Wizards of the Coast will never put this into some standard set or anything, so it's always going to be in a premium product, and that's going to keep the value of the card a lot higher than people probably would like to see a card like this at, unless Wizards of the Coast does a mass reprinting and brings the value down. Chrome Mox is going to hang in there, and this year it comes in at number 3. Now, our number 2 card. Number 2 is Edgar Markov. Now, he may be number 2 right now, but we all know he is slated for that reprint in Innistrad Remastered. We know it's coming right down the pipeline, but we don't know how far the price is really going to drop because it's going to be an expensive card. It is not going to be in every pack. It is the marquee, sought after. The reason you're going to the show that is Innistrad Remastered is because of Edgar Markov. Now, Eminence is an incredibly powerful ability. I've been slaughtered by this thing more times than I can count in some local pod groups I played with. My Throw Bowl deck just can't stand up to it, but I understand that players would love to get their hands on this card again at a more reasonable price than over $100 US. Now, we've waited long enough. This is 2025. We've got to stop in here now and take a look at the number 1 card, the most expensive card. And no, you're not looking at Mana Crypt, but this card did bump off Mana Crypt. This is Mox Opal. Mox Opal is now over $180 US. $179.11. The unbanning of this card caused insanity in the markets. Buyouts everywhere. Cleaning house. Everything you can think of that is right or wrong with MTG Finance, with owning these cards and getting the ability to have them, sent players into a market frenzy to buy this card. Now, do I think it's going to stay this high? I honestly believe Wizards of the Coast will reprint this within a 14-month time span. I think it's coming around. And when you think of the cards that are not on this list, well, hold on, let's get to that. So those were the most expensive cards that I could find to include for a top 5 most expensive cards of 2025. And yeah, we got reprints coming, cards being unbanned. It is insane to think how much of a shakeup it is to see Mana Crypt not even on the list. The One Ring knocked right off. Those cards would have been on this list if not for that banning and unbanning. Now, at the same time, think about other cards that you probably haven't thought about in a while. How about Ocelot Pride? How about Vorinclex the Monstrous Raider? Many of these cards are $40, $50. Mox Amber is still an expensive card. It's probably due for a full reprint at some point, but we know, and we've learned from Wizards of the Coast over the last several years, that that's not the way they deal with the financial side of this game. They don't do a massive reprinting of all these cards to make them more accessible. They dole it out as an IP. They say, this card is valuable. We don't want to drag it down too much, so we're going to put it in this set or that set. They put 1 or 2 cards. They put a couple $20 cards, a couple $30 cards. They have a nice blend that has probably been put together by some actuarial group to say these cards can afford to be reprinted. And they keep others in reserve, like We haven't seen Edgar Markov been reprinted since he came out in 2017. It's about time he's finally coming back around to give Vampire players a chance. Now, cards like Sheoldred with a light reprinting, well, that probably needs to be brought around again. But we all know that Wizards of the Coast will only put it in a premium. And when they put it in premium products, it's not as likely to drop in value. It doesn't have as much loss, which means players like ourselves who may have gotten them a little bit earlier or may have had copies for years, we don't see a real dip in our price. It does expand it out to other players when it drops 10, 20, or 30%. But eventually that reprint equity wears out. It gets absorbed by the market and the price goes back up. So where does that leave us in this second half of the video going into 2025? Well, we have Mox Opal at number 1. It's almost a $200 card right now. That is a prime reprint target. We've also seen cards like Splinter Twin, which is not on the list, but it's probably going to be a $30, $40 card that needs a reprint unless the price gets adjusted by the market at some point. And we have other cards that are the $30, $40 level that also need to be reprinted. Sheoldred, we know, is in there. And how about the Ancient Copper Dragon? Now, this dragon, because of what it does, makes it very expensive. And the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate did not go over well, and they were insanely hard to pull those out. I mean, I still have my box sitting right back here. I never opened it because those boxes, when I bought them, were almost $500 a box, and when I saw how hard they were to pull any of the Ancient Dragons, I was afraid to open my box. It just sat there sealed on a shelf. And a lot of players would love to see those dragons come back around again in some kind of, maybe even the Dragon's Atark here. Maybe we'll get that Dragonstorm set. Maybe somewhere in there we're going to get them being reprinted. And I know a lot of players are hoping for that. I would love to see your thoughts on this. I would love players to take a moment, put some comments in the comment section, and let us know what you think. Not just what you think, but let us know where you think these sets could be reprinted, in what fashion they would be reprinted, new fancy frame artwork, and do you think any of them could end up in a standardized box of play boosters to give players a little incentive to buy them? Anyway, I don't care what crazy tinfoil hat theory you may have. You got to drop some comments and share them with us, because we're here at the end of the year. We're tapping things out, and we got to know that some of these cards are going to come back sooner rather than later, and it might be a prime opportunity for players to sit back and let these cards marinate and maybe reap the rewards of getting them a little bit cheaper down the road. But either way, these were the 5 most expensive cards I could find. Let me know what you guys think. Drop some comments in the comment section. I didn't even check Imperial Seal. We're here at the end of the video. I'm thinking I should have checked Imperial Seal, but you guys will drop in a comment if I'm wrong. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Oh, I saved you guys the trouble. I took a look afterwards. I mean, if we include the original printing of Imperial Seal, it's like $1,000. Like, I'm going to include just this one. It's $92. It's a reprint, the cheapest copy available. It's still pretty expensive, though. Hey, guys, a thank you and shout out to the fantastic patrons of my channel. Because of these amazing patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible for YouTube. So thanks again for all that support people show me each and every day. Guys, we're here at the end. It's okay. You can just chill, relax, look at the names fly by. Don't worry, the video's over. You can just leave right now. Just go. Just go. I should have checked that Imperial Seal. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. I mean, I guess if you go with the OG version, it's $1,000, but let's be realistic. It got reprinted. The reprint, this copy is cheaper. So let's look at that one and say it's still $92 though. I think I paid $250 for mine when they did the reprint. $210? I gotta check the spreadsheet on that, but still, it's still an expensive card. It's just not as much as it could be, which means that's another card they have reprint equity in, but I don't think it's as sought after as even like an Ancient Copper Dragon. It's just not used as much. So anyway, I thought I'd include that part, because I'm like, oh, I caught it right here at the end. Now, this is Christmas Eve. I hope you guys are having a great time. You're watching this 11:15. You have all day to chill out and enjoy. Maybe I have another video tomorrow on Christmas. Maybe I don't. Depends on what time frame kind of worked out. I got a lot of cooking to do. Either way, I wish you guys all the best. Thanks again. It's been a fantastic year. I know we're not at New Year's Day or anything like that. No crazy New Year's Eve stuff, but it's that busy time of year where I don't always get a chance to think about things. This is the moment, the Ramble Jamble. You guys know. It's awesome. I'm just lucky to be here. Thanks again, guys. See you later. Have an awesome Christmas with your families.